So just to start with introductions, I'm Elliot Bald. I'm the vice chair of the WCC. We'll be going through our agenda, and this meeting will probably be more unscripted, whatever we want to talk about. I think we have some grants that we had to go over and basically resolve some details and try and pivot. So we hit some dead ends and need to go a different approach. So yeah. Julie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. So I'm Julie Bowman. I'm secretary to the WCC and I guess administrator, kind of, with Doriandra's help, of the Art in the Parks grant. I'm glad y'all are here. Do you want me to, we're going to do some more introductions? Let me know when you want me to give that recap.
I don't know, whatever we want. We can all just say hello or introduce ourselves. If for time, you can go ahead and jump into the recap, I suppose.
Okay. So the Art in the Park series has finished for the year. We do have funding next year. We have the same amount of funding next year, $3,500. With that money, we were able to pay, 7 bands, and also purchase some very needed infrastructure for the WCC. We got a microphone and a cord. We got a PA system. Feel like, oh, we got some signage that's durable and will be usable from year to year. Free concert in the park tonight. We also got some really great posters. I'm overall happy with how the series went. We had record attendance to every show. By my estimation, we had about 400 people total over the 5 concerts and the 50th anniversary celebration. Every artist said it was record attendance for them, people who had been with us before. Samba Ja told me that we are their favorite concert of the whole summer season, not just this year, but historically, and that felt great. I had 0 difficulties in the park this year in terms of people who needed to be reminded of park rules or asked to exit the park because they were getting up to things that were not compliant with park rules. And that was nice. I've not been able to say that before. This is the 3rd year I've coordinated, and the last 2 years we had some situations that had to be dealt with. So I don't know if that was because of increased attendance or for some other reason. I don't know. The porta potty was fantastic. There were some vandalism issues. Definitely it being there was problematic for some, but I appreciated very much the city making that available to us at no cost to us and no liability to us. When I looked into renting them, the rental company understandably told me that we would be liable for any damages, and I wasn't comfortable with that because we've seen what can happen. So the 50th was really successful. Everybody seemed pleased. The ice cream was a huge hit. In terms of things we would change, anybody have questions or things they would like to see changed? Not so much. Things I would change. I would get my posters printed sooner. I was slow on the draw with that. Those weren't printed till about the 1st of July. I think that I might print a few more posters. We had 100 and ran out of those. So I still have a couple for the archives, but we gave all those out. I might ask the bands to do a little bit more self-promotion. I definitely don't want to do a 50th anniversary this coming summer, though we don't need to. Elliot, what do you have to say?
I felt like our promotion budget was pretty good. Maybe we could do an ad in the Eugene Weekly next time or something like that. I'm always surprised how many people read the Eugene Weekly, at least in the neighborhood. So it's a good one.
We were in their summer guide, but as some kind of an ad to pop up in the weekly ones would be a great idea. I didn't ever get on Nextdoor and promote there. I don't use Nextdoor, but a lot of people do. What do you have to say, Thea?
Did you ever get on the different TV news stations community calendars?
I did not. And I'm
So
sad to
maybe
say
for
we didn't
next
get
year.
any coverage at the 50th either. So school me on that. How do I just call them up?
So they have a community calendar. You can go to their website and you can put any of your events and it plays on their news stations, on all their different news stations, and it says community calendar. If you ever pay attention on the news.
I don't watch the news. It's better for
Yeah,
me that way.
that's why you wouldn't know. Yeah, it's better for me not to.
So KVAL,
Okay.
KZI, the local news.
All three of them. All three of the local stations do it.
That is excellent to know. Next year, I hope to use a little bit more of our budget to purchase infrastructure. Assuming that no stage is forthcoming, people do like to stand on something. My bamboo mat's kind of on its last legs. So maybe some kind of something for people to sit or to stand on. Yeah, I know Jen reached out, Miranda. I don't know why they come to our disaster events, but maybe it was a busy news day. Games was the other infrastructure I would like to purchase just so that I don't have to drag my games down. And I know that we cooperated with the Sunday market on games a little bit. So perhaps that'd be something that could be used more than once a year. I don't have very many changes for next year other than better promotion. I love the community calendar thing. Did anybody come to concerts? Toriandra did a little bit. Something else I thought about doing. So tell me what y'all think about this. Reaching out to local restaurants like Nelson's or maybe Davis or someone else, Slice, and seeing if they would like to sponsor something. Meaning put them on our posters, sponsored by. Maybe they'd like to pay some money, donate some money, and be on our posters or otherwise promoted by us. My understanding from looking at our charter is that we cannot show preference for any Whitaker business unless they have purchased advertising with us. So if someone gives us money, we can advertise them. We can't just say, hey, everybody, we like Nelson's because Nelson is great. Go to Nelson. But if Nelson gives us some money, then we can say we're sponsored by this business. I had it in my mind and I just never did it this year. Thoughts on that? Do you agree with the charter reading? Is that something we should check on?
Yeah, that's totally business as usual for a nonprofit to have events sponsored. And you don't have to go out of your way and say, I always go to Nelson's when I'm trying to get my dinner or stuff like that. You can just say, sponsored, they've paid for the event. Thank you, Nelson's. They're great.
Right.
Keep it there.
You're not allowed to make any comparative or declarative statements about the quality of so you can, like even
Nelson's
with like
is
Long's Meat Market,
than...
you can't say like the oldest meat market in Eugene because like they sponsor Fill Your Pantry. Even oldest was like a weird one. So we did a music sponsorship this year. Ask for the market. It hasn't gone great. As a heads up, but I would say Nelson's would very likely do it, and we didn't ask them for money because they're doing so much for us by letting us use the shed. And Willie just opened, Quinn I've been playing phone tag with for forever. So I just don't want you to get like your hopes up, because also what happened with us, like, or start now, because now I'm like, we were going to do the banner and all of the things and all the advertising, and it's now September. There's only 3 weeks left, and I'm still in negotiations and trying to get $100 from, 3 people. So.
Gotcha, Jen. That was my question. Like, what's the lesson you learned there?
Okay,
What can we avoid? It's just extend your timeline drastically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe donate a percentage of profits, or I guess that feels messy to me. How am I going to find out what those are? But okay, I hear what you're saying.
You could ask them to do like a percent night on the evening. Like Nelson last year, I know, did the to-go boxes as meals. And so like, I think that's a really great, thing to maybe leverage, because then they are getting some additional business for folks who are buying that meal. And so like, if Slice is like 2 slices to go and a soda, and we'll give you $1 of each of it, they might be interested in, that might be a good hook for them.
And that constitutes sponsoring too. That's legit for our status. Okay. Nelson did do a special last year. I don't think he gave us any money, and we did promote him. So that was maybe a little bit not kosher. So I want to be in line going forward. But that's a good idea. And I'd like to reach out to more businesses, not just Nelson. Slice is a great idea. So overall, it was super positive. I think people enjoyed it. I had a lot of great comments. I saw some of the same faces from week to week. Someone shared with me that she was grieving the loss of her partner, and our weekly concerts were really key for her to get out and be social in a way that worked for her right then. So I guess the takeaway from that is you never know how you're affecting people, right? It might not have seemed like a lot to me, but for this lady, it was big, and she shared that with me toward the end of the season. Anyway, yeah, next year we're on.
Nice work, Julie.
Thank you.
Totally, bravo.
Thank you, Julie. So now we'll move on to Thea. Do you have any updates with the parks?
I do. So I am Thea, and I've been Parks and Safety Liaison for Whitaker Community Council for, I don't know, since 14, I think. I don't know. I honestly don't know how many years. It's been forever, because I was doing it on my own before I got involved with WCC. So as many of you may have heard, Breakfast Brigade, the permit has been pulled for Breakfast Brigade in WJ Park. And Breakfast Brigade was at City Council. The city has realized that it's brought in a lot of people to the neighborhood that don't necessarily have good behaviors, and they don't move on. We've had an increase in crime. We have our individuals who have lived in our neighborhood unhoused for a long time who are afraid to go into the parks right now. It's increased camping in all our parks and on our streets. The little park here at the end of Maury Jacobs has had campers every weekend, Friday and Saturday, Sunday, since the last weekend in July. This was the first Saturday that I didn't wake up with someone actually camping underneath the swings or underneath the kids' slides in the park. A lot of extra drug use, a lot of extra dealers in the area. Parks is aware of it. Parks employees have been threatened. So they're not cleaning WJ right now. They're not going in unless they feel safe, because they've been verbally abused. Like I shared, I think at the last meeting, I had somebody come out after me with baseball bats because I was trying to get one of our regular unhoused bicycles back, and I saw his bike. They had spray painted it black, and so I was going to grab it, and they came after me with baseball bats. So I just got back in my truck and kept on going. I was like, bummer, maybe we'll see it again. And park ambassadors are keeping an eye out for it. Park ambassadors are handing out their cards regularly to people saying these are where the resources. We did try to work with Breakfast Brigade alongside with Burrito Brigade. Burrito Brigade is also in support of this, because they could see that it was not helpful for the neighbor and for the regular unhoused. So it was huge. We tried to work to find spots. The city of Eugene has several spots that Breakfast Brigade can feed different people from all over the city. And so instead of doing it in one spot, we were recommending doing several spots. You know, one day a week in WJ, and maybe a day at Community Court, and maybe a day at the shelters, like I always screw up the address, Garfield, for cars. They need food. They don't have kitchen services there. They need fare. Several of the safe sleep sites, they don't have kitchen services. They need food there. So Reagan Watches from Homeless Services for the city has several sites that people can go feed at if they need it. So if you know somebody that's working for a church or someone who wants to feed, there are places to go feed people. We still have nighttime security in all our parks. They are going through WJ, Sladden, Maury Jacobs, over to Monroe and Washington Parks in the Washington Jefferson neighborhood and Skinner's Butte Parks. And I'm not sure if you're aware, we had 3 fires in Skinner's Butte Park this weekend. Almost had a fire out in front of my house yesterday. We had someone whom, I'm not sure what they were doing, but there was a car there and they were going to the trunk and bicycles were coming and getting things out of a backpack and going back into the park. And then coming back to the trunk and getting more things and going back into the park. So not sure what that was all about. It didn't feel real legal, but they had thrown a cigarette out. So I went and took in the dry grass. So I went and took a bucket and dumped it out. So we have to be vigilant right now. It's really dry. I know we get rain tomorrow. And as far as the other safety end of it, city is still offering to do a cleanup. They're willing, if Whitaker wants to do a cleanup in the neighborhood, I know Elliot, I've talked to you about this since May. They are more than willing to help with cleanups. They're willing to pay for trash cans. I'm still pushing to get trash cans on our street corners because LTD has pulled out all the trash cans. And so I'm not only asking for trash cans, I'm asking for the kind that have the recycling on the side and saying, let's get these in here. Santa Pack, I've got a couple gals at Santa Pack, their names to work with. So it's still a possibility. But I could really use some help with that because I'm pretty exhausted. And my blood pressure has been through the roof because I have been dealing with city people trying to get them to our meeting tomorrow night. And they should be there, but it's just been a real rough month. So I think that's it. And then we have water turned back on. And the dog park's still being successful. Julie, do you still take your dog to the dog park?
I do. My dogs are at the dog park right now.
Oh, good.
We go most days to the dog park, and it took my dog about 3 days to learn the direction to get there. You start walking in that direction, and he starts towing you toward the dog park. And it's stayed really clean. People could do a better job picking up their dog poop, but that's true in all the parks.
Yeah.
I've not seen any needles, any food trash, any really other trash, and I haven't had any hassles with anyone unhoused or housed by my assumption. Yeah, it's been great. I love it.
Great. Yeah, I know we had a few campers around the outside of it last week, and everybody needs a place to sleep. I get that. It's not the place to sleep. It's the bad behaviors that happen and the trash that happens. So it's nice to see that the dog park is successful. I know we have less dogs off leash along the river here now, which has been really nice because we've had a few incidents with dogs off leash. So that's been really helpful for especially all our apartment dwellers. So does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So Thea, I'd be happy to work with you more. I just did a test run. I did an Alton Baker cleanup with a group of about 5 people and just seeing how that would work. And that worked really well. So I'm prepared. I'd be happy to kick off a Whitaker cleanup again and do a full day of it. And I'll meet out. I'll get in contact with you outside of this meeting. How about that?
Sounds good.
Yeah. All you, Julie. Yeah.
I forgot. Go ahead, Julie, and then I'll tell you the other safety thing I have.
Well, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just wanted to be sure that Breakfast Brigade has been offered a lot of places to do their food distribution, and as yet they're not interested in considering other locations. Is this true?
This is correct.
Okay, that's too
And the
bad.
city is still trying to work with them to give them other places to feed. They're more than willing to help find places, but the city has seen what happens when you feed in people in the same place every day, day after day after day. And we not only have Breakfast Brigade, but there is a church also feeding on Sundays. And so we're basically having feedings 6 days a week.
I don't know when
draw.
I don't know when they pulled their permit, but it already looks better in the park in terms of the number of people hanging around and the amount of trash. I go by there every day.
I don't know if they've actually stopped feeding. Just because the permit was pulled, I don't know if they've stopped. But I do know that I have called and I have sent pictures, and so has Whitaker Watch, to say it is not safe We cannot play in the park. We cannot walk from Jefferson to Washington to get to any of the businesses on that side of the park, or they can't walk over to get to the businesses on the west side of the park. It is not safe to go through there when they're chopping bikes and they're dealing drugs. And I've also gotten a hold of the parking teams and said, why are you not enforcing the 2-hour parking? Because when they enforce the 2-hour parking, the drug and women trafficking seems to be going down. So that's on that. And then the thing I forgot was, I think starting in October 1st, and Whitaker Watch can help me with this, the hollow under the railroad tracks at the end of Chambers across from Georgie's and the Mako, that area where people often live. It's actually county property, and they are going to be retrofitting that whole, all of Chambers needs work. And so they're going to be working on all that, and that whole section is going to be closed down. So they have been trying to keep that clean of campers, and some of our people that prey on other people live in that area right there. So Travis might be able to, Whitaker Watch might be able to tell us more because he's more up on that.
Hi, this is Travis. Yeah, they got that whole area shut down by order, and it's a weird jurisdictional area between the railroad, the city, which is what we call the bowl as you're going up railroad to River Road. That's kind of the bowl, and then the holler is the area down below across from Mako that accumulates hazardous waste cleanups once every month for the past 3 or 4 years. And it's currently trashed. There's a couple of people in there camping. They did do a sweep out of there, and a few of the campers have ended up on private property along Railroad Boulevard. You've probably seen the campers there. And they trash that area too. I know I've actually seen Elliot. I believe that might be part of Elliot's neighborhood area contribution for cleanup, because I've seen him there quite often cleaning up that stretch of Railroad Boulevard. But it gets, every time it gets cleaned up, it gets occupied again. It's pretty ingrained down there, and it's I believe it's going to be curtailed because of erosion control work that they're planning. And I don't know how extensive that's going to be, but I believe it's going to be fairly extensive as they've tunneled into the underpass. There are actual tunnels in the underpass. There's an underworld in that soil that they're going to have to remedy, because it creates some liability to the bridge's longevity, the integrity of the bridge. So other than that, I'm not real sure when that's going to start, except for they have said it's going to start this fall at some point, and that will be helpful for that area. Just less trash. I'm sure the problem will move somewhere else. Today, I did notice from about Subway at 6th and Washington down to 5th and Washington, some of the park problems have now moved up next to the dog park in that grass strip along Washington there. And there are still large groups congregating at the park. They seem to ebb and flow with the feed. So the feed doesn't start until tomorrow, technically Wednesday through Saturday. I believe there's a Sunday afternoon feed on Jefferson between 4th and 5th, and possibly an evening feed on Sunday. And that feed is done by a group called freepeople.org. It's another small nonprofit that I think it's a husband wife that run that little thing. And that one hasn't seemed to be as big of a trash problem as the larger Breakfast Brigade feed has been. But Monday and Tuesday are kind of the quiet times, it seems, at the park. So I know Julie had mentioned it seemed better. I do want to mention it's better, but it's still a park. And my point of view, and then I'll drop the mic, is that drugs should not be allowed in our parks. And the level of vagrancy even should not be allowed in our parks. Those parks should be accessible for all, and definitely accessible for the children in the neighborhood to play, kick the ball around without fear of stepping in something dangerous. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Yeah, it's not so much that we're against feeding the homeless or those that need care. It's just become it's been impossible to use that space or even walk through without feeling unsafe to that point. And that's why we're saying all this, is that we can't use the park and nobody can really use it. And it's become a drive-through area where you don't want to ride your bike, you don't want to walk, and that defeats the whole purpose of the Whitaker. We're a walkable neighborhood that everybody should feel safe and have access to. Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually need to lock your car doors now when you go through there. You don't get to drive through without your car doors locked, which I don't want to live in a city that way. We did also ask why Breakfast Brigade couldn't use Food for Lane County's building, the dining room, because the dining room's not open every day of the week. So why couldn't Breakfast Brigade use that space as well on the days that Food for Lane County is not using it? So hopefully we'll get some connections for them, because everyone needs to eat.
Yeah. All right, I think on the agenda, this is my section, and I have a bit of an announcement, and it's sad news. I have actually technically moved out of the Whitaker starting at the end of the month. I've moved, I know, Stephen, yeah. I'll no longer be your neighbor. So I found a really great place across from the Campbell Center on High Street, and it's really lovely. And sadly, I'm just outside of the Whitaker boundary. So I am your vice chair. So what does that mean in our chapter? Basically means I'm no longer a member. And so technically I can't be your vice chair, but I can still be involved with the community and things. So I will be putting in my resignation at the end of the month, which sucks. I'm not happy about it, but I am happy about the new place where I'm living. So it's all give and take. So yeah, that's the update, which means that the vice chair position is opening up. It's a good position. Yeah, you get to, basically, it's a very flexible role where you get to prioritize whatever you think is important in the organization at that time. So like Margaret runs the day by day, coordinates with Doriandra, and then the vice chair is there to step in, but has flexible time to either focus on fundraising or operations or anything else. So I'm sure elections, ad hoc elections will happen next month. Basically, this is pre-release, so I haven't sent my email out yet. So it's about the email board. Yeah, I'll keep you looped in. Yeah, Travis, and then Thea.
I'm sorry, I might not have ever taken my hand down. My hands down.
Okay, all right, Thea.
Well, congratulations. You're not going to be working in the Whitaker, because if you work in the Whitaker, you can still be on the council.
No, sadly, I live in the riverfront area I work in the riverfront area by U of O. So
okay,
I don't qualify
You want
any
to
which
work
way.
1 hour a week at the Whitaker Community Market?
I don't
We need
know.
another info booth assistant.
Yeah.
all right.
No, I think I can put my free time. Yeah, I feel like I've also started a nonprofit of my own, and I should give some time to that. And through that, I can also help the Whitaker in many ways and help clean up things like that. So I don't feel like this will be the last you'll see me, of course, but yeah. Yeah, so that is mostly my update. I have a lot of time, but I will tack it on to Doriandra's time, I think, because we'll discuss some solutions on Starlink and battery backups for Starlink and things like that. So I'm happy to relinquish my time there. Jen, I think your net's on the agenda if you're ready to talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So I misunderstood the homework assignment and was in homework mode. And everything gets a PowerPoint. But I made so I thought that we were talking about having a conversation about where we had come to an agreement on rules and how that agreement on rules can facilitate cooperation and collaborative work and can be a key to de-escalating conflict as it arises in board meetings and things like that. Well, actually is the topic of consideration is kind of how do we navigate conflict with people who operate on a completely different set of rules? And the reality is I don't have a very good answer for that. And the one way that we can look, is what we bring in any interaction we have. And so like that framework of the window of tolerance is always a good one to have. And I'm happy to share that slide if anyone's not familiar with it. If I can figure out how, we'll see. But it's about kind of bringing acknowledging your own energy in whether or not you're going to escalate or de-escalate a situation. Some days I can probably get out of getting hit with a baseball bat, but maybe not as often as Thea, because my baseline energy may be different, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of good answers. I think that, Cahoots as a resource has historically been able to provide de-escalation trainings for the general public as well. And, I've taken that and they have some really good advice about, paring down, like if someone comes at you with a really high energy and you're trying to de-escalate, like really focus on low energy and try to scale it down rather than ramp it up. And I believe they still offer that training, but mostly it's like, I kind of want to know from this group and from the city and from everyone, like, what do we do when we are faced with these situations that are beyond our capacity or responsibility to deal with? Because that's what happened at the market a few weeks ago, is that Charles had been in a serious spiral for weeks. And I think everyone knows Charles. And, had potentially pulled a knife on someone even that Thursday before, but they declined to press charges. And then the situation escalates, but we don't know about that Thursday incident. So we don't know how unstable Charles is, because Charles is always a little unstable, and so this incident escalated, and then we tried to call Cahoots and we tried to call the police, and nobody came for hours. And then they did come, and then they arrested him. And that was really upsetting for everyone, probably most of all Charles. But that's also the only way for people to get integrated into services, because we don't have mandatory holds, and the threshold for a threat to yourself and others is extremely high, and usually has to be characterized by some level of arrestable offense. And so, yeah, I don't know. That's it seems like there is a gap in services with the mobile crisis center folks from the county taking over. And I don't know what's going on with that. So that's definitely a question if anyone has that. Yeah, Thea?
I do have an answer for that. So the mobile center there's one, and it goes from Florence all the way to Oak Ridge. And so if they're in Florence, it's going to take them 2 hours or an hour and a half to get back here if they're in Oak Ridge. And so that's an issue. I know that EPD downtown only added a social worker with their officers. I know that EPD also changed. They no longer have seniors on patrols. It's volunteers on patrols. So any age can now volunteer. And they've taken them, they're in bright yellow shirts downtown, but they're only working downtown. But they also work on de-escalating. I don't know why the bright yellow though, because that could be a little, yeah, because they're really bright yellow. But they do work on de-escalation. I know personally the thing that has worked for me in the last 2 months is be a good neighbor. I spent 3.5 hours 2 Sundays ago cleaning up behind where the American Market and the hotel is 7th, right on the other side of WJ, the alley there. My nephew and his roommates now own that house. And so I was out there cleaning, and there were a lot of people using drugs, right? They have a little alcove for garage there. And I just kept telling people they needed to be a good neighbor. And they're like, oh. And we planted some flowers. And so far, knock on wood, the flowers have been there for a whole week. They haven't pulled them out of the pots. But there were a lot of people that were, it makes me sad. The drugs are over the top. A lot of people are not from here. Because I'd ask them, where are you from? Oh, we're from Arkansas. We're from Alabama. I mean, we're talking all over the US. I was Idaho, Washington. I didn't get one person that came down that alley that day that said they were from Eugene, which was real interesting. But I did, when they started bad behaviors, like several people tried to take my pickers. And I'm like, hey, that's my picker. Be a good neighbor. If you're going to take that, please pick up the trash while you're walking down the alley towards me and give it back, And that seems to work. Even when somebody's hearing voices, the be a good neighbor has worked. And then I always say, how you doing today? It's that you got to have kindness in your voice, But when they're really spiraling, it's hard. I watched the young woman yesterday. We have a young woman that's been in our neighborhood for 3 weeks now, and she's lighting fires around the neighborhood. And we're all like kind of paying attention. And her voices are really, really bad. And the car I was referencing yesterday, they went out to talk to her. And I was ready to call 911 because I actually thought they were going to grab her. And she actually came over towards me because I watched for her safety. And I said, you can hang here. And she sat down for a little bit because she knew she wasn't safe with them. So, and she's normally not that lucid. So it's tone of voice as well, Jen. You're right.
Elliot?
Yeah, I suppose I'm looking for some advice beyond what Thea has said, where you'll see like a lot of antisocial behavior where people just aren't really thinking about like where the social aspect of actions don't exist, like somebody going to Sam Bonds and just ripping up all their flowers as they walk by, or just like people casually stealing from the market, and then the market's like, yeah, that's just cost of doing business. Like we've lost, a couple of scones to somebody just walking up and grabbing stuff. Like I hate the fact that I turn my cheek all the time, where like I feel where I should say things but I don't, and I feel like that's just so commonplace now all over on the West Coast, where like you just like, hey, if you keep walking, like you'll be by them and you don't have to say anything. And I'm looking for some advice on how to better my behavior about that and maybe improve neighborhood relationship in that way, and like how I should go about like handling those situations where it's like not a crime, but wow, like you've just ruined somebody's day and cost somebody hundreds of dollars, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, and some of it is just like, quite frankly, bonkers, I believe is the technical term. Someone stole the chain from around the porta potty in the park. We think it ended up in the porta potty, which, honestly, like, the thing I can recommend is like what Thea said is like, try to hold kindness in your heart and a sense of humor. And like, but it's hard. And like, that's where that window of tolerance thing is. Like, some days, like, I don't have the spoons and I have to be like, that's not my crisis today. Like, and if I make it my crisis, it's going to be a big one, And so just kind of like being willing to be an active bystander, but that doesn't do any good unless you can do that kind of self evaluation to like determine whether or not you're in a good space to bystand. And being a good neighbor is about standing by and supporting people. That phrase doesn't work the way it used to. But and I think that there isn't there just isn't a good solution to any of this, right? And that's the issue. And so like trying to just also not think about it as a from a point A to point B, like there's not going to be this point where it's like, great, we housed everyone, we have fed everyone. It's like new people are going to come, people are going to lose their jobs. You know, if you had been one of the people who got that pink slip this morning, especially with a move to maybe a nicer place, you know, you start to understand some of the pressures that people are under. But the reality is too, is like, fentanyl, xylazine is just a bad. I think is all we can do as community members.
Nice. Thanks, Jen. Your internet cut out a little bit there, but I got the majority of that. So you're all good. All right.
But
Anybody
I
else
think
have any
advocating
thoughts?
for
Oh, yeah.
additional resources. Sorry. But I think also like we need to, as a cooperative group, advocate for additional resources in this neighborhood, because it's my job on Sundays to help set up a PA and move barricades and, you know, try to say hi to people, you know. It's not my job to be policing the neighborhood service.
No worries. That's better.
Sorry. So yeah, so I think advocating for additional professional resources too.
All right. Nice. All right. Should we move on?
Which I'm not just assuming Theo will do for me.
Nice. All right. Does anybody else want to speak on that? Or we can move on to Doriandra and grant updates. All right. Let's move on. Doriandra, would you like to update us on grants?
Sure. Thanks, Elliot. And thank you, Jen and Thea, Julie. Those are all great updates. Much appreciated. So let's see. We had all, as a group, gone back and forth about the AARP grant, and we let's see. First, we realized that putting the internet hubs with private residences proved somewhat of a safety risk at times. And so then we pivoted over to businesses, and we thought that that would be better, but then that was nervous because businesses come and go. And so then I talked to Emerald and asked them, can we put them in our public parks? And then that was kind of the exciting takeaway, or that was a good solution. We had it in you know, kind of rolling along well. But then I got no response or help from the city in terms of getting the legalities done. There was 3 or 4 emails that went undone, and then that frustrated Emerald, and so then they refused to work in that avenue. So then I pivoted over to the Eugene Mission, and so I can successfully say that that is about done. They were thrilled to partner with us and be a host. So we'll be, we had our second site visit today, and the IT fellows there agreed to separate the Eugene Mission Wi-Fi, you know, so this is a standalone one that will be, as our goal was, to be turned on and off only around emergencies. And I think we finally have the battery pack sorted out. It'll be plugged in at the base. So the good part for the Eugene Mission is it's very minimal wattage, and the benefit from going through their utilities is that Emerald can turn it off and on that way from their side. So finally we have some traction, and once it just took so much to get around and decided, and so now we're pretty certain that Eugene Mission is solid. And then Thea was really gracious and reached out to Bruns Apple Market, and they were excited. So they just had to kind of clear some aspects. And now that I finally have the actual, machinations of what the box on the side of the building looks like in size, what the box inside the store will be on the ground for the battery backup, I can send all that to them tomorrow. So it looks like we'll just have those 2 hubs, and each of those hubs will cover the largest radius that Emerald can do. So we're hoping that it would be at least 2 to 3 blocks. With sightline and this and that, it's variable, but we'll be loading up those fiber optic signals with enough power, or what you want to call bandwidth. Is that an antiquated word? But to power between 50 to 100 devices. So it's, I'm guessing that at any point, maybe 50 would be probably what people will be using. Because then we have contingencies like, can they even walk there? Is the ice too prohibitive? Things like that. So anyway, that's the good news with that finally coming to fruition. And then I think for the third part, given we couldn't get the city to play ball with any other parks, so we'll just go ahead and buy a Starlink system, the Roam setup, and whoever is the chair or secretary or vice can have that in their place. Hopefully it will be a good equidistant place in regards to Bruns and Eugene Mission. It would be great to have something over closer to the park. I know Thea's got her hand up. She was going to check with Ciderworks. Did that come through? Oh, you're muted.
Ciderworks is possibly leaving the Whitaker. They are a nonprofit. I did not know that. They're closing down. But I did think about Oakshire, and I am happy to reach out to parks and actually talk to the director of parks to say, can we get one in Skinner's Butte by the garden?
No,
Or those lines don't work because of the cable companies?
exactly. There's a monopoly on certain areas in the Whitaker. So
What about Oakshire or the granary?
At this point, I tell you, Thea, this has sucked up so much of my time that I'm happy to just have the 2 that we have on physical buildings, and the third can be a Starlink room, because the grant deliverables, I'm so far behind in the cohort process and response because there's nothing to report. I've just been swimming in this. So thank you. But yeah, we have to move on to other things. So we'll just get that third unit. And then I was going to chat with Elliot, or maybe we can do that offline. Elliot's so great at tech wizardry that, because now we'll have to buy a battery backup for that Starlink wherever it lives in the Whitaker. So, Jen?
I'm outside of the Whitaker by a block, but I am shockingly equidistant between Bruns and the Mission on Chambers. So
Nice. Okay. Thank you. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, we want to get something that's on closer to the Washington Jefferson side. So I mean, technically it could be Margaret. She's on that side. So it's all spread out. So, but thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, and yeah, to tidy that up, one question for you all. I was working on the event at the Campbell Senior Center today. That's going to be October 5th. And I'm inquiring with them about launching the disaster resiliency portion of our event, to do that fun recipes for disaster again with the big cook-off. So I'm trying to see if, what is allowed in that kitchen. That's specifically why I rented that section within the center. So if we do that again, we'll have some support from our new social media person, and we should just maybe, I don't know, does anybody have any thoughts on that? Should we do that again or just let that lie? and focus on the AARP side of it. Go ahead, Julie.
It was super fun. People had a good time with it. But I don't know if they have. I was actually, fun fact, the first time I got married, I did it at Campbell Senior Center. So it's been a long minute, but I've been there. I don't know how big their kitchen is in terms of accommodating us. And also I don't know how much we have to do with the AARP thing. So I like the idea. I like the idea of doing it again sometime, but kind of on the fence about whether we should do it this time.
Me too. It was so much fun, but AARP will be there, the Oregon offices, and this is a big grant deliverable focused on digital connectivity. So yeah, I've been just like kind of thinking, well, do I load it up with all of our partners again and the learning circle and all that, or do we just focus on Internet Matters? So I think these are great suggestions. Elliot and Thea, what are your thoughts?
I really like the community tabling aspect of the disaster recovery event. I thought that's great. And I think that kind of serves our mission as being the platform to bring a bunch of resources together. We ourselves don't have to be the resource on everything, but we just had to make sure everybody has access to information. So we could do a tabling event, say after our lesson or something, where we do our internet connectivity like in the morning, and then at noon we have this tabling event. So people that go there can stay for the event as well, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thea?
I heard lots of positives about your event, and I do know that the Campbell Center has a really nice kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But I heard lots and lots of positives about it, and it was a draw to bring people in as well. So,
Yeah.
if you get both the fire department and the police department, you could have them compete against each other.
Oh, that would be so
I'd like
sweet.
to do that.
Thank you so much for starting those invite invitations. I'm just thrilled that you have the direct line to them. We're very thankful.
They're sending someone, so you have dispatch coming, which is huge for an emergency.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you. Okay, we'll find out what they're willing to do or let us do in that kitchen. If we have to get a food handler's license, that could be a little weird, but we'll press on and I'll keep you all updated. Oh, go ahead, Travis.
Hi, this might be, I was kind of a little confused about what you were talking about a few minutes ago regarding having some success towards the street, the street that goes towards the mission, and the installation. Is it the installation of those internet boxes that you were talking about last meeting? Was that what we were
Yeah.
talking about? Okay.
Yes.
I guess my question to you, because I've found communication with the city to be suffering at times also, and I know that a lot of people in the city are more effective than others. I wonder who is helping you determine the person or people that you need to be reaching out to. Are you sure you're going to the right person?
Yes, thank you. That's a great question. Yeah, I've interfaced with the city on multiple projects for the WCC, so I have a real robust kind of line to the correct avenues. And I think, to be fair to the city, the conflict about Scoburg Park renovations may have hindered their willingness to help us do this. That was kind of my guess on that. There were people on vacation, the list goes on. So some of our contacts at the city are excellent and very, very responsive, but other times it just falls flat. So thank you though, Travis. Yeah, I do know who to reach. And when I don't, I just ask Thea and she knows. So
I was gonna say,
We got it covered.
I hate to say it, but sometimes a stern email to the city,
There were
like
two, yeah.
a little bit of a different tone in
Mhm.
that follow-up fifth email.
Yeah,
Sometimes that gets the bite. I'm just saying. All right.
thank you. Okay, let's see, Thea, did you have something?
So just for future reference,
Mm-hmm.
Parks employees all take off in the summertime. I don't understand it.
Right.
Parks that's our busiest time for our parks, and they're all always on vacation. Actually, a lot of our city employees take vacations in the summertime, and sometimes whole departments will end up only having one person there, and it can be really frustrating. So,
Yeah.
and I am happy if you change your mind and want to reach out to a building. I'll reach out to REI. They're not going anywhere. Grain millers aren't going anywhere. They've been here forever. That would get to the other side.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
all right.
Okay. Super. All right. Without further ado, any other questions, or can I hop on to the healthy homes thing for us all? Okay. That we're kind of grounded in the water for that right now. I'm trying not to be nervous, but the state of Oregon now is doing their risk assessment for every organization that received the award. So there's a couple different interpretation of risk assessments. And to be clear, I'm not clear on it because it's basically meaning I'm not sure which one they're focusing on, but we're waiting. So it's a little bit of two things combined. One, where they're looking at the work that my proposal is to look at all the different categories and ascertain what kind of insurance we'll have to gather to protect our organization and the grantor. That's one part. And then they're also looking at the robust financial health and history of the council in regards to past grants. So there's no real timeline on that, but I'm just working to kind of get ducks in a row while we wait. And so we're just in a waiting game, and it should be soon. They're not offering a timeline, but once the risk assessment is complete, then from there we go into the grant language, and then there'll be more meetings, and eventually we'll get the ink wet on the grant contract, and then we'll be ready to launch. So I'm kind of glad for this interim time to be, gathering more facts and information, and so that we're ready to go. So that's the update on that. And then the CHIP grant, we're closing that out. That's been a great run with the small garden program that will end, all the spending and work on that will end September 30th. So, yep, we'll be full steam ahead with the big healthy homes, probably by November. So that's my update.
Nice. Doriandra, if you have time in this meeting, I have a few solutions for the Starlink battery backup. We can just kind of walk through.
Great.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. Sorry.
Did you want to send them? Oh, great. Thank you.
Oh, we're just low chat here. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is what the Starlink looks like. I think we're going to go with the Roam SKU. So it's a little different. It's a bit more portable. But I was looking, and the wattage is 50 to 75 watts of consumption. So like, okay, let's try and find a battery bank that can handle that. So this river here, this one, this can run the Starlink for 3 hours, and it costs 170 bucks right now. So okay, for 3 hours, if we want to bump up, so this one here, this can run it for about 15 hours or so. And so right now it's 800 bucks with $250 off. So that's what we're looking at. And it has AC plugged, so it uses AC power. So we just need access to a plug here. And these are battery banks with inverters built into them. So pretty useful. And this
Nice.
is also a good asset just to have as well if we're like at a park and we need some power for like, you know, an hour. We just need to run some speakers. These are great things to have overall in the organization.
Right.
So I'll send these all in email, but these are what I have up, and this is kind of what it costs.
Okay.
So if we just need a battery backup for a few hours, this is it. And then this can, of course, be charged by a generator if that's needed. This just also can take an AC plug, and the AC plug can go into a generator. We could run the generator. Basically, this recharges in about 30 minutes from a generator. So run the generator, turn it off, have 3 more hours. Run the generator, turn it off, have 3 more hours, that kind of thing. And then all of these can also be solar powered. They have solar inputs as well.
Great.
So even the small one can handle 100 watts of solar and can be recharged in about 3 hours from a 100-watt solar panel. So pretty solid. So I'll send these over. This is what I'm thinking basically as a battery pack. So then we can also use this for events if needed. And it's a great dual use asset where we can use it for normal work, and it's also prepared for emergencies to run this Starlink when needed.
Excellent. Thank you. That's a perfect solution. It's great that it's got multiple uses too.
It's got plugs and yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That's great.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Stop.
Yeah, we'll have enough to do that with the budget. It's the Wi-Fi hubs are turning out to be approximately 1,300 for each for the building locations with all of the technology and whatnot and the battery packs. So doing the Starlink, buying the equipment for 200, it seems to be on sale right now. So we can get the roam and then the battery backup for probably about 1,000 if the two combined. And then the advantage of going with the roam is that you can turn it on and off. So we're never stuck with that 150 every month. We just turn it on when we need it and turn it off. So
Cool.
yeah, that's great. Thank you, Elliot.
All right.
Really nice.
Nice. So that's kind of covering everything we wanted to talk about. So now it's free form. Basically, open comment. How are we feeling? What do we want to talk about? We are a committee of community members, so I want to hear what's going on, what maybe we can work on, future grants if you have any ideas. So totally open forum at this point. Yeah, go for it, Travis. Unless you still had your hand up, then I'll pass over to Thea.
Sorry, I keep doing that.
That's all right. I'll pass over to Thea then. Thea, what are you thinking?
Are you still all looking for office space? Because I reached out to Jamie from Ninkasi about their house.
Yeah, what did he have to
This is
say?
really-
So Jamie asked me to reach out to Nikos.
Okay.
Not opposed. He says it's not in great shape. I know the upstairs is storage, but there's a bedroom, a kitchen, a living dining area downstairs that's rather large. It felt large to me. I was thinking I was going to do a pop-up gallery in it, and then my senses came to me. So so if you want me to reach out, because I know you need office space, I'll reach out to them. I'll send a letter to Nikos. They've been very supportive of the work the Whitaker Community Council has done. They've been very supportive of the community in general, and see if they're willing, even if it were temporary, to give you a place to be. And then I talked to the city. The city no longer rents the space between the beauty supply and backyard farmer, and Whitebird is no longer in there. And Reagan sent me the name of the person, and Doriander, did I send that to you, or did that just go, psh, okay, it's in my files, I will send it when I hang up. But that could be a possibility of a place as well. But it would be a lot more money, and I know you guys had a very limited budget.
Well, if we had got the OREM grant, we had about $60,000 for rent space for several years, and we did not get that. So now
Okay.
it's back to being very unclear as to what the budget really is. I mean, I'm gonna have to start writing some more grants and think about that. So, yeah,
I mean, I'm looking at that space right now, the one between Backyard Farmer and the beauty store. It's what we would need. It looks like it has like garage doors for equipment to come in and out of, office space. Maybe that could be a cornerstone of a fundraiser we
mhm.
could put on. I feel like we need a reason to fundraise, not just we need money, but a purpose. We need to rent this place, that kind of thing. Everybody
Yeah.
loves getting behind that.
And
Yeah.
you have two fundraisers coming up. You have Hop Valley on Thursday, which I haven't seen any promoting on the Whitaker's open page. And then Runs Red Apple on the first Wednesday of next month is giving 5% of all their sales except cigarettes and the liquor store, because that is a state-run store. But they're doing beer and wine, and they're giving 5% of their sales for the entire day. And they make a lot of money in one day. So
Yeah.
we need to, that needs to start being out there, like maybe even some posters around the Whitaker saying, save your money,
Mhm.
shop Wednesday,
Mhm.
just a minute, October 2nd.
Second, yep.
And then Thursday is the fundraiser at Hot Valley, which I didn't even know. I just happened to slide by something and I saw it. So
Mm. Okay.
we need to do a better job of getting fundraising information out there.
Yes.
Totally agree.
Yes.
There you go.
Okay. Okay. I'll let the new person know that folks are not seeing it. I saw them, so I'm not sure. Hopefully, we need to do better at that. So, okay. Yeah, those are really good platforms. I think, to get enough money to raise rent, we need a big thing. So
Yeah. So Thea, for the Nikasi house, what do you think they would rent that for?
I think they might even donate it for a temporary time. And
Nice.
Cassie's very generous with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're interested, I will ask.
okay.
I think so.
Hi,
Bye,
Stephen.
Stephen.
Thank you so much for coming.
I would float it by Margaret as well as you're about to send it out.
She's
I-
already asked, but I don't know who she asked. And they said, oh, no, we're not interested. But I talked to Jamie. He's an owner.
Mhm.
And he said, definitely go to Nikos. So he told me to email Nikos, but I didn't want to email till I talked to you guys.
Okay.
Cool. Let's do it. We are all aligned. We want that place. I think it's a good location. And yeah,
There's enough space to even have a meeting,
That'd be
depending
nice.
upon how you do it, to have hybrid meetings. So
The old place of Equiano is for rent too by the Russian Orthodox Church, and the rent is $800. It's only about 390 square feet, but it's such a sweet place. I'm tempted to call them and see if they would lower that for us for nonprofit. I mean, it's really high. It's it's $2 a square foot. So we did have a potential option to rent something from at the hybrid, but it's not going to be grant compliant with the way it's smack dab in the middle of the bar and other spaces. It just wasn't good. So anyway, well, let's keep trying, and thank you, Thea. That's a great start.
okay. Anything else? Anything we want brought up? I know sometimes these meetings are long, so at the end of it, you're like, all right, I got nothing to bring up. All right, Julie.
Well, Jen brought up a good question a little while ago, which is to whom and how do we bring our concerns to the city asking for better better attention, better coverage in the WIT? How do we ask for more these yellow shirt representatives, the social workers, more dedicated officers? Is that a go to city council meeting question? Is that so I'm curious. I don't know. I'd like to see that happen too.
Would you like me to answer that?
I would.
It is go to city council. I spent an hour on the phone with Randy Graves this morning. I also learned from Randy that when we use the mayor city council, which is what I've been giving out to people to send letters to, it's not quite as effective as if you use the individual counselors' emails, because they get thousands of emails a week. I will go back to my old system where I put everybody's individual emails in. I've been nagging Chief Skinner, but when I saw the no longer seniors on patrol, but volunteers on patrol, I'm hearing from lots of neighbors that they would love to volunteer around our neighborhood to, and it's not a policing situation. It's a, let's be safe. They shared how they are connecting people with resources when they're out there, is that we get some more volunteers from our neighbors to go out and start organizing. I've been nagging Chief Skinner forever to get social workers and Cahoots, but Cahoots is their hands are tied right now because Lane County says we're in charge, but they only have one van. So that's why we're not seeing Cahoots out and about right now. There's literally political red tape around it. And so it is going to city council. It is getting neighbors to go to the meetings, to write letters. They want to hear from us. And I've been told over and over, but also people are afraid to go to council. They're afraid of repercussions. So, because you look bad when you say don't feed someone in the park. And we're not saying don't feed, but don't feed in the park. So
yeah, I understand about the repercussions issue. Can you say the name of that program again? Not seniors, but now
it's volunteers on patrol.
And that has they give you cars to drive around in, right? I feel like I've seen those cars. They're kind of cop car lookish, but not, and they say volunteers or whatever on patrol. So would Chief Skinner be the person to reach out with if we were able to coordinate some volunteers? Would our volunteers be dedicated to the WIT? Do we know?
We could ask.
Okay.
I'm more than willing to ask and send them a letter. I'll send them a text.
Well, that seems like a proactive thing to do. I'd like to see something happen. And hell, I'll go talk to the city council. You can come tell me how you feel about me. Come talk to Steve. Come talk to Steve about that. That'd be awesome.
Well, I'd love Steve to go. I also think we really need to push more of the adopt one block. We need to start taking responsibility for our own neighborhood and picking up trash in our own neighborhood. And I know it's a daily process, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, but we really need to push the adopt one block. It would be really nice to see that going again.
Thank you for the reminder, and that would be a nice project for us to take up in all of our free time. I'm being facetious, but it is a legitimate project that I would like to see advanced, and I didn't make it happen this summer, so maybe fall and winter is a good time.
Sorry, I feel like the summer has been incredibly busy, so well, we're doing great. Nothing could be done in a day, so we'll just add that to the queue. Yeah, I dropped the link to volunteer with EPD. It lists all the programs, so we'll find that one in there. But yeah, cleaning our streets reminds me of like cleaning your room. It's just something that happens, or else it turns to chaos. And everybody thinks that the city will come and do it, but it's also on the community's responsibility to do it as well. You know, I think of like Japan. Every shop owner cleans their front step, and if everybody does that, then our taxes don't have to increase. We just have cleaner streets because our community decided we want to clean streets, that kind of thing.
So true.
Yeah, Jen, do you have your hand up?
I do, yeah. I was just like wondering if, if this group or someone wanted to draft something that goes to the greater council to try to be like, or is it just going to open up the can of worms of like people are gonna be like, we don't want yellow shirt cops in our neighborhood. But kind of, trying to like create a petition that people can sign on to, maybe inviting Lindsay to ever come back to a meeting. Um,
Yeah.
sorry.
So Lindsay Leach is
And
actually coming to tomorrow's meeting.
okay,
So
He's
yeah,
coming
and
to tomorrow night's meeting.
yeah,
but like with this being able to be a priority and kind of having a little bit more of a proactive, instead of just being like, it's unsafe and it's scary and it's like everyone knows that, but then everyone just writes off the neighborhood because it's unsafe and scary. Um, and so I think like kind of having maybe some requests that we can put before her. And then I think also having people come from like that volunteer program to some of the resiliency events to talk about the process or do recruitment if they're looking for, to be able to provide a platform for them to connect with neighbors that might be interested, whether they speak at a meeting or whatever. All of those seem like potential ways to be a bit more proactive about it.
totally. Having the WCC take a stand and be the voice on an issue, I feel like that's new to us right now. I think we just sent out our first board letter to the city like a few weeks ago, so we're still learning how to do all that. So, yeah, Travis.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I know I watch the city council meetings pretty faithfully every other week. Um, and I've noticed that the the Bethel organization chair, comes to just about every meeting, and she pretty much gives the same spiel at every single meeting. So she's using that kind of repetitive communication tactic, which works. Where it works even better is when you have 20 people doing that. And where I see a lot of people being successful, especially some of the um, various activist groups, whether it be uh, pro fireworks, anti fireworks, natural gas, homeless feedings, whatever the issue is, you get advocacy groups from either side that actually join together, create coalitions, and go into council in groups of 15, 20, 30. And that's where you make change, is when you have 30 people that are committed to a topic or an idea enough to show up on that Monday night or show up on that Wednesday night. And I think part of the reason why people don't necessarily go and speak out by themselves as much is because there is a danger um, to confront groups that are not aligned with your beliefs, and sometimes those groups are disproportionately in these settings. So if you've got 20 people that are supporting natural gas and you come and say no, natural gas is terrible, it's a hard thing to do. So it's better to get a bigger group of people together and go at it like that and being consistent. I think that's kind of the name of the game. But without that being done, I think um, not polls, like the change.org type things. If there's a city issue or a Whitaker issue that the Whitaker Community Council feels like the community at large could be on board with, um, penning a good petition, a petition that is, not inflammatory on one side or the other, something that most people with, uh, I don't know, hate to say it, but with a little bit of common sense, um, could get behind, and then presenting numbers of people that have signed this, whatever we want to call it, a demand or a strong request. I think those are the ways that are going to be most effective. Showing up I mean, I've been kind of doing my own thing in terms of reporting, and it's effective just because I do report a lot and I communicate with the city a lot. But it sure would be a lot more effective if there were 100 people out of the 3,500 people in the Whitaker doing the same amount, or not even the same amount. We could all do, our piece. But yeah, we're the Whitaker. Since I was a kid, we've just kind of been chill, kind of just go with the flow, and that only gets us so far. That's it.
Thanks, Travis. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Julie, I put in the chat when the council meetings are, and those are the ones that people can attend. They have other meetings, but that's the one they can.
Thanks for helping me out, Thea. They have lots and lots of meetings, and I swear I just saw 7:30, which seems kind of late. So 5:30 makes better sense.
And I can do a little bit of like data scrubbing to try to put together a a needs based ask for things or something like, hey, we have X many people on OHP in this neighborhood. We have this density, and kind of try to pull together some things that might support this.
Totally.
Because I do like doing homework, it turns out. I'm so bold.
Yeah, that makes good sense, Jen. Rather than showing up and being like, hey, we're not happy in the Whitaker, you need to do more. Having a concrete, this is what we'd like to have addressed and here's how we'd like to see it addressed makes a lot better sense.
Having
Because
data.
yeah, it's like because I do want like the sort of fuzzy nebulous thing I want to ask the city is like, hey, can we have a little bit more transparency about what resources are available and how we can access the ones that are there? Because all we know is the county has taken over the crisis thing. Kahoot still has 2 vans. It's all a mess. And there's a little bit of like vague pressuring there, but like if we're actually going to ask them to call in additional patrols and stuff like that, like I think identifying the need and then making a policy recommendation,
Yeah, Thea.
I asked if they could put the resource codes that they have for beds, because beds are available every day, and where meals are every day. And I asked if they could put that on a poster and put it in the parks on the runner boards. And one of the persons I asked in the park said, oh no, we wouldn't want that on the parks. They wouldn't read it anyway. And I'm like, what does that matter? So I'm going above that person's head, because a resource is a resource, and to hand someone a piece of paper that they're going to throw on the ground. But if there's something on a board permanently, so Jen, if there's certain resources you're looking for in particular, let's talk and we'll see if we can get those through my different contacts. They're still all speaking to me these days, so.
And I can bark up the Lane County Public Health and the CCO trees with those folks, because there was just a bunch of money that came down for health related social need services, which actually would have been a great grant for WCC too. And I think they might do it again, because you do that, a lot of that. But it's like the city doesn't have any money. The CCOs are kind of patching, but how do we get it to where it needs to be? So.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do.
Because I'm going to go watch the presidential debate and hopefully fall asleep because I'm exhausted. But I appreciate all of you. And I'm still working on my letter for the city for tomorrow. So
We so appreciate you,
asked.
Thea. Thank you for everything you do.
Nice. Thanks, Thea. Yeah, I'm just staring at this property between the backyard farmer and the beauty supply store. I'm like, it's city owned. please just give it to your neighborhood group. Like that would be so great. I'm just staring at it right now. It would let us launch so many
don't think
programs.
City says
I
city
don't think
says they
that's
don't
city
own
owned.
it anymore. It's not city owned anymore. You're right,
They
Travis.
sold it?
Yes, it's a husband
Ugh.
and wife that own it.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, we're not getting it.
Mm-mm.
Too bad. It's a good property. Right. Okay. Should we wrap it up? I think we've had a great meeting. I think it's been solid.
Yep, very good.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks so much. We'll end it here,
Okay,
and hopefully we'll see everybody at the general meeting tomorrow.
great.
All right. Thanks, you guys.
Bye.